I think, yeah, there's a transition. I don't know that you ever get over the transition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just part of you, maybe a piece of you that just doesn't ever go.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey friends, what's going on? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career. This is conversation number 134, total episodes number 224. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I know that you'll find value in this episode. It's really fun. And again, unique. It's the first time I've had somebody that is doing this on the podcast, which is really cool to me in 134 guests. My guest is Evan Smith. He's a U.S. Army veteran, and he is utilizing something special to him to not only help himself, but to help other people. So that is what we talk about. That is what I encourage all the time on this podcast, and he is doing it so awesomely. He was medically retired from the Army. He was in a really bad car accident after he was medically retired. So he's had a lot of terrible things, which has led to chronic pain that he just hasn't been able to get rid of, but he is finding a way to mitigate it and help other people with that as well. Remember, you can find this episode and all the other conversations and the contemplations on kristoflewis.com/podcast or on any of your favorite podcast apps. And you can find me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis, or you can head back over to the website and contact me there. The best way to help this podcast out is to share it. Check out any of the awesome podcasts that we have. There's over 200 episodes now, and head over to iTunes and rate 5 stars. That really helps out. So without further ado, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for your flexibility. I was saying I had to cancel on you last minute last week, and you were totally understanding. That is parenting through and through, so I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
Yeah, that absolutely happened, so it was completely understood there.
Yeah, man. And we've been talking for a while, but I always look forward to these podcasts. I always look forward to the guests because they're so unique, and they bring I don't want to say uniqueness about them again, but that's really what it is. And it gets me so excited because what I'm trying to do here is introduce people from all types of different backgrounds that have a common theme of they're trying to better themselves and they're also helping other people while they're bettering themselves. So I'd love to get into more of that. But before we do that, I'd love for you to be able to introduce yourself.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Evan, big outdoorsman. I've got a wonderful family, wife of 10 years. We've been together for about 12, and got married pretty early, but that actually worked out well. We've got 2 little boys. Rhetman is 6, and Everest is 3.5. And so we are an outdoors family. Love being outside. Love sharing this with my sons and my family. My wife has always been out either in the deer stand with me, chasing me around a hunt with camera. Having fun that way. Got a good federal job. I actually get kind of something different. I feel like a lot of my friends and people that are into the outdoor agencies and into the outdoor world, they kind of have to go do their 9 to 5, and then they get a transition to go outside after that. And I work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Okay. And so with that, I'm actually a district conservationist. So I get to run around during the daytime too and go do conservation work. So it's really nice, really fun, and then I've got my military career. I got retired out medically, several things with that, but, that's kind of where probably a lot of my chronic pain started and kind of got me down some of these roads that I've gone down, and kind of probably some of the reasons why I do what I do now. Mm-hmm. But a lot of things going on, a lot of irons in the fire, but usually how I try.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I appreciate you doing that, introducing yourself, and I actually kind of want to get into it as well a little bit later. We'll see if we have time, but I want to talk about how you've been able to have a relationship for 12 years and work with your family through everything that you've endured. I think that's something very healthy to talk about, regardless of how people handle it. And obviously, you all handle it differently. and then the fact that you're medically retired. And I just want people to hone down already, that what I said kind of in the introduction is to highlight people that are both helping themselves and other people, and that is the epitome of what Evan is doing here. And one of the reasons I was so excited to speak with him, because not only were you medically retired, and then you had mentioned about some of the car accident you had been in, these things that you had been in, and when we spoke, and I heard you talk about that stuff, it hit me really hard. So I'd love to get into that. When you retired from the military and you started doing what you did now, was there like a shift in mentality or behaviors, or were you always this individual that had the current mindset that you have now?
I have always been, if we had a group of people and a group of friends, I think most people in the military will probably say, hey, I was the guy that was always the leader.
Sure.
Took charge, grabbed the horns, definitely always liked that.
Yeah.
But even through sports or through school, there were other people, that were better than me, or, that were better leaders than I was. And so it's just kind of always been one of those things that, you've got that in you. And I think you've got it. I think maybe you can be taught a little bit, but I think you just have it. I think that's just kind of one of those things. And so with that, I think when some of those opportunities came, and I started seeing myself struggle and try to figure some of those things out, we definitely have our 22 a day that seems to be, those guys are strong as hell. There's no doubt about that. So to say that, they're weak-minded or anything, that's not the case. But for me, after I got hurt, my stuff was stateside, one knee surgery, 2 hip surgeries. And it just never, that process took so long on the military side with paperwork, that it took so long that those injuries kind of stay now forever. They just did not get the way they should have. They didn't get the attention from medical that they should have at that time. So, that kind of started me with a little snatch there, kind of caught me back. But then when it came down to the next step, so I then retired, and I think, you were kind of saying, what was that transition like? And really, that was weird. The day that you no longer can go throw on your uniform and be in regs, it's like, that's very uncomfortable. First Veterans Day comes around and your nieces and nephews are like, hey, you come to my school? And you're like, well, I guess I have the big V now. I'm the veteran. I'm not active, and I think, probably still I have issues with it, because it made the other day, we were sitting here and had some bombs go off overseas, and I was talking to some buddies, and it's like, man, my adrenaline is just, I need to go, we need to go help these guys. I need to be there. So I think, there's a transition. I don't know that you ever get over the transition. It's just part of you, maybe a piece of you that just doesn't ever go.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't think, or maybe people, and I want to preface everything I'm about to say that everybody deals with it differently, but I don't think you have to be, like you said, completely over it to be able to, quote unquote, successfully transition. What is a successful transition? Is it merely a job, or is it your mindset? Or I would believe, again, that it's a holistic approach of, can you take care of yourself and your family, but can you also do that mentally? Can you take care of yourself? Because if you transition, even though you have a job, but you're not really out of it, because like you said, the first time you're not wearing a uniform, it's really weird. You're still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And if you don't have it right in your head, then how the hell are you going to be able to support your family for the support that they need reciprocated to them? So it's this weird place. And I remember the first day I showed up to my first job post-military, I thought I was ready, but I was not ready. I was not ready.
Yep.
I was ready until I stepped in the door, and then I was like, this is too weird for me. So I totally get that, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I also understand the chronic pain. The repeat listeners know I've been dealing with this neck/back injury for coming up on 5 years right now, and I'm twitching as I'm talking, just dealing with the pain. Yeah, man, and it's really difficult to do that. I mean, how have you found peace? And like you said, because I would agree that it's still not diagnosed. I've seen specialists in and out of the military, and I feel as if maybe it could have been a little bit lessened had it been treated earlier. I mean, how have you dealt with your own physical pain? And then on top of that, the mental, just, you get run down, man. You're really run down. So how have you best dealt with all of that?
That's been kind of my new chapter in life. So, all the left knee, the left hip, that messed with my back, my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so post-military, retired, and all of a sudden, my wife and I are in our little gas saver car. We have my oldest son, who was then 4 months old, in the back of the car, and a nice gentleman decided to run a red light in a 3/4 ton commercial van and like smoke us. So since that day, my wife had some injuries. My son, thank God, he was fine. He was a little fluid baby, and he was good. So I took the brunt of the actual force. And so left shoulder, had to have surgery to have it actually put back in place. I looked kind of like I was running forward all the time. And I had a neck surgery, neck fusion, and then I just had a second fusion here just over a month ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was another, I said fusion, but I had a disc replacement. You can't see because my man beard.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see it. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see this, or if you're not watching on YouTube, you can see this pretty good gash. It's like 1 or 2 inches on the bottom of his neck.
If I get a 5.56 round tattooed right there, like it would be a 3D good looking tattoo. So we'll do it. So since then, I have been literally in a doctor every week, if not, 2-3 times a week since then. If I was not federal, I guarantee I'd have been fired 10 times by now.
Wow.
The good things that have been afforded to me that way with the leave has been unreal. But so that part of my life has completely changed. I every single day deal with chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia. I have rheumatoid arthritis. And then everything, from my neck to the top of my head down, it hurts. And so the only way that I have found to deal with that, there's several ways clearly that, you can try to do your own thing, but being outdoors, going out and getting away from the other stuff. The ringing in your ears never really stops. That kind of follows you along everywhere you go. But, one of the things is just being outdoors gets me to calm down, slows me down, gets my head to kind of relax, and you just don't realize how much fresh air does for your endorphins. They tell you to go work out for 5 minutes and you'll feel better. And it's like, okay, we all remember what we felt like when we were done with, an extreme physical activity. And really when you're out there, today we went down, we had a chance to go out to a lake and just literally stand there and just kind of walk around for a little bit in some fresh air. And so that has changed things for me to being what I have to do to keep myself sane. I will go out and I will bust my butt for an entire day, and I'll literally be in bed for a week, and that's what most people see is those awesome days when I'm out taking, good pictures and having fun and hunting with my hunting dogs or taking somebody hunting. They see that and think that that's what I'm all about. And it's like, listen, I love doing those things, but that is what feeds me for those other 6 days of the week that I'm in bed.
Yeah, man.
Those are challenges, but that's one of those things that getting my kids into the outdoors and, taking my wife out and enjoying a hike together. Those are the things that are worth it to me. That's worth me being back in bed for a while.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm glad that you shared that. I tried to do that with my own life through this podcast since I've obviously done so many of them, and I enjoy sharing my life a little bit, and it's therapeutic in its own way. But the fact that you shared that, it may appear like this, but in reality, I am doing that. However, I'm on my butt for the rest of the week because of that. But the simple fact of going out there, being able to live your life is obviously worth it. Being able to take your wife, being able to take your kids and your dogs, just your entire family out there is worth it. And I'm thinking to myself, and I would always encourage anyone listening to think to yourselves for your own life as you're listening to these as well. Don't really take them just for entertainment value, even though they are really interesting. But for example, for myself, I'm listening to Evan talk and I'm like, wow, I don't get out nearly enough. You see my podcast office right now here on YouTube. This is where I work. I work at home. I spend 14 hours in here at least a day, between the podcast and work. And I just don't get out enough. I don't go run. I should be going to run with my dog or my wife or something, but I'm not. So I would encourage you listening. Are you doing that? Because it helps when you're dealing with something physical, something mental, like he said. And you listed off a few things, which was really good. Obviously the physical ailments, it helps to get outside and it's almost like a distraction. But I do think exercising your body does help with that, but mentally as well, getting out. So I think there's a lot of good takeaways from there, but to be conscious of it and to weigh the pros and cons of this is what I'm going to do, even though I might be on my butt for a few days, but overall it's good for me and it's good for my family. I like that a lot.
I think once you get to that point with, and you've been dealing with your neck pain for 5 years, and once you get to that point of, this isn't 3 months of recovery. Once you start understanding chronic pain, and it's a totally different deal, it messes with you mentally. There's no doubt about it. It just pulls you down. And I don't care if I spend 24 hours in bed or if I spend, 12 hours inside and 2 hours outside and finish the rest of the day on the couch. I hurt. So you can lay on your ass on bed, and decide that, okay, I hurt too bad to get up. Okay. You kind of made that choice. I'm going to hurt whether I get up or I lay here. And honestly, I mean, the longer you lay in bed, usually it doesn't go the other way. You don't normally feel better the longer you spend in bed. And that's coming from a guy that spends a lot of time in bed, so, get up, you gotta kind of pull yourself up. You gotta get back out there and man, there's days that I literally can't get up, and I would much rather be so tired and hurting because I chose to do something I enjoyed than to hurt because my body just wants to hurt every day. So I get to be in control at that point, and I get to make myself hurt. That's fine. Shoot, if I go out there and bust my butt and I make myself hurt, that's fine. But if I'm going to lay around because my body wants to hurt all the time and I can't do anything, I'm not in control anymore, and I don't like that.
That's a great point. I love that, being able to take control of it, not succumb to the chronic pain or whatever it is. I think we find that we do have more control than we think. Sometimes, I think especially with chronic pain, again, I'm only speaking for myself, but I just come to be used to it. It is what it is, and I feel like there's almost no use in fighting it. And I have been weak to that. I really have. And I think, again, regardless of the physicality aspect or the mental aspect of it, whatever we're fighting in our lives, whatever it is, sometimes if we've been fighting it for a long time, we almost want to give up and we think that we can't do it. But you're saying, obviously, to keep on going, be in control, because you are in control and you can still make decisions. So I think that's phenomenal. And what I even more love about you and what you're doing is that one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, which is how you're helping other people through everything what we just talked about. So Evan talked about the chronic pain, getting out of the military, the car accident, which as a new father, like I told you, that hits me even. That's absolutely terrifying. I can't imagine getting in a car accident with my 4-month-old. Jeez. And then all of the things, getting outside as well. So all these things that we've talked about, you've been able to consolidate all of these things and been able to help people through the mental aspect, which we've talked about, and the physical aspect, which we talked about. So I'd love for you to explain to us what you're doing, but also how you got into that as well.
So I just love the outdoors. And I mean, that's been with me since I was a kid. I actually did not grow up hunting as a young kid. But we did camp, we did hike, we did fish. And then once I got into hunting, my uncle actually introduced me to it when I was about 12, and literally have not stopped since. And so with that, luckily that was kind of the situation. My wife knew what she was getting into when she married me. Hey, he's a hunter, he's gone. You're a fall widow because he's in the woods. And then when things turned and I got hurt, I was needing to get out so much worse. And that was the way that through all of my struggles as a kid and the different things that everybody goes through in life, I found the outdoors. And when my pain hit, it was like that was my only release. That was what I got to enjoy. And I had just started taking people out. I had started getting into a little bit talking with some online communities, and I got to the point where I was struggling so much that I was just like Facebook and Instagram. It was like Googling, support groups and who else is going through this pain and what in the world, because you can go to 20 doctors and you're going to feel like nobody's listening. And then you finally find one, and you got to have a community that's going to support you to kind of get you in there. So I found that I had a tool, and I started getting into that. Wanted to take guys out, wanted to take veterans mainly. But then when it came down to it, whether you're disabled through one version or the other, it just seems that it's all wrapped in so much. And so I was able to run into this group. The Fallen Outdoors is a national non-for-profit, and in Indiana we have a chapter here. And luckily a couple of years ago I ran into a buddy there, and he kind of explained what was going on. I said, well, I'm kind of taking guys out and I'm loving this. And instead of popping on the position to be like, okay, well, I'm going to put my name in for all these drawings and I want to go on some free stuff, I was like, dude, I have land, I have resources, let's get these guys out. That's what I want to do. And when I started doing that, I had no idea how much more it would feed me in doing that. So, absolutely, I'm there helping these guys out. There's no doubt about it. We're not trying to ever claim that we did something. I mean, that's how it goes. But
sure.
I knew, dude, that's fun. You're getting somebody else out. They didn't have that opportunity, and they probably are dealing with a struggle. But then when it got to the point of, then I started getting a return on top of it too. I'm like, this is insane. But you would get people out, guys that had PTSD, people that had physical ailments, different issues there. And all of a sudden you're putting that connection together, and it's like, listen, just get out there, let's go work, let's go put in our time. All of a sudden everything's silent, and like, you just notice wildlife. You see a bobcat, you see some birds, you see some deer, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm not thinking about my pain right now.
Love that.
And that just changes. And it truly is, teach a man to fish, kind of keeps feeding himself. You teach somebody to hunt, and all of a sudden it's like a spider web. They just take off, and from there they're wanting to help somebody else, and they learn from you, and they learn to hunt, or they learn to fish, or they learn something else about the outdoors. And I really have just grabbed onto that. And I just don't know that there's too many other things out there that truly help the way that has. And I'm talking about for myself specifically, the outdoors it's truly been my medicine. So that's been amazing. But yeah, the falling outdoors is where this really started snowballing for me as far as helping out, more people, and then being part of a group that helps other people. That's been pretty amazing. You got that camaraderie that we all miss so much. And then, you put that together with helping other people that need it. And, trying to teach them a couple things as you get through there, as hard-headed as most of us are. Usually when you are in that situation, you learn a little bit, listen a little bit. So that's been fun.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. How cool is that? There's so many things here that I try to highlight that are all wrapped up into one. It goes back again to the beginning of the conversation, helping yourself while you're helping other people. To think about, like, I was just cracking a smile because thinking about doing those type of things, and then the way you described it to us about your pain dissipating in the moment, and you're just engulfed in the now. And it's funny because I think I'm more attuned to this because I'm reading The Power of Now right now for my book a week challenge, and it's just, I'm really focused on being in the now. And I believe that when you are doing what you described to us, you're out in nature, you're with other people, and you're working through these things. And I'm not a hunter, I've never hunted, but I can imagine with my limited knowledge that when you're out there, you're quiet, you're all, dressed up or kitted up or whatever. I don't think it's called kitted up anymore, but you're out there and you're just, you're out there in the wilderness, you're with everybody else. My point is, and you're just quiet. You're trying to be quiet. And I think just when I grew up in Colorado at, 8,500, 9,000 feet, plenty of hikes all the time as a kid by myself, and just being out in the depths of the woods by yourself there's nothing like it. And you forget that you just walked from a town or a city or something like that. So I can definitely see how that contributes to that. I absolutely encourage people to do what you're doing in their own thing. So like Evan highlighted that, hey, this is what works for me, right? So that's a great point. We'll find out what do you enjoy? And do more of it. Does it help you? Does it help you live more in the now? Does it help you kind of forget the pain you're going through, whether again it be the physical part or the mental part of it? Even further, can you help somebody do that as well? Can you teach them? And then going even further, you said it was a spider web. So essentially this domino effect of you teaching one person, that person being able to teach that other person because they're seeing how it affects them. So you're getting something out of doing that to teach them. They get something by learning and understanding, like, holy crap, this is awesome. And then they just keep on paying it forward and paying it forward. And I really love how that system works. And the thing is it does work. You're able to help yourself while you're helping other people. And it quite literally is the gift that keeps on giving. So what you're doing is a very important thing to both yourself and these other people. And I even know, as we've touched on your family a little bit, it's important to your family as well, because you have to be able to take care of yourself to be able to properly take care of your family and give them what they need as well. So to be able to incorporate what you're doing, because like you said, go out with your family, but also go out with these guys and give back to the community, is really special, man. Really is.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's like I said, it's definitely not about that as much, for me, as much as it is just get these guys out and give them a break.
Yeah.
And once you see, once you get that mental break, it's just like all of a sudden the training wheels fall off and you just realize you're ready.
I agree. Like I said, I don't get out as much anymore, especially because I'm so engulfed in doing this podcast, but I will give myself up as an example of this is kind of like my hunting, right? So in my way of helping myself and helping other people, can't tell you how many times I've come into a podcast not wanting to record because I was in a bad mood because of something was really affecting me, and I just didn't think I would give my guest a good interview because I wasn't in it. However, I did it anyway, and I felt so much better afterwards, and so I would continue to just press people to do it, regardless of if you don't feel great. You don't have to be, like we've said, completely healed to be able to help yourself and have these conversations, and it does help quite a bit, and the fact that you're doing that on such a wide scale is really fun. So how often are you doing that?
We normally, each member of the team will normally put on a good couple hunts every year, and so that's usually, a couple people. The bird hunts, I can get guys out. I can get a lot more people at once. Deer hunting is one person usually at a time.
Sure.
But one of my friends, and I say friend, but one of the people that I took out to help get a deer, that was like 4 weekends. So, that was a lot of time together. So it's not necessarily, a good couple hunts, but do that. And between all the members, we've got fishing trips and we've got hunting trips, but you don't have to go out and take something. You were talking about yourself, never really hunted or anything, but it doesn't matter. It's that same thing as, like when you're out there in Colorado climbing the mountains. It was one of my favorite hunts I've ever had, and I didn't get an elk, but it was still one of my and it has the endorphins and the excitement and the adrenaline to take, something that you can provide to your family. You can feed yourself, how to do those skills. That's pretty amazing. And there's some excitement to that. I won't say there's not, but it's that event. You're getting out, you're getting the fresh air, you're climbing. And that all you get back for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool and special to be able to have a thing in your life that is able to provide to other aspects of your life, not just in the sense of meat like we're talking about, but something that makes you feel better, it contributes to each other. Like I actually recorded a podcast episode about it last Friday. When this comes out, it'll have been a couple weeks ago, on my 3 priorities in life. So how to able to identify your priorities, and my priorities all help each other out too. So you're able to help other people, which helps you out. By helping you out, we've already talked about this, it helps out your family, and they all are related a little bit. So it's really cool to see that you've really done that for yourself. I did want to hop over to, I had it from Instagram, so I screenshotted it. Like you guys know, doing a new segment where I put out like a sticker 24 hours in advance to ask questions to the guests. So we had some. These were from last Thursday when we were supposed to record, now recording the Monday after, since you guys are listening in the past. I have a couple questions here. We don't have a ton of time, so I am going to just ask one of them. And I think one of them said, what motivates you? I feel like we have covered a fair amount of what that would be, but just thank you for that question. I appreciate it. That's actually from another guest, so thank you. So let's go, and I'll let you pick. It says, the first question is, where is one place he would like to hunt? And the second question says, in his opinion, what is the most difficult part of hunting? So take your pick, or both.
Yeah. So quickly, because we don't have time, but those actually go together for me.
Okay, perfect.
So when you have chronic pain and you've got to figure out what can my body do versus not do.
Yeah.
And, we didn't get too far into it, but with the Colorado hunt, I was hunting elk, and that was one of my favorite hunts. It was a lot like the military. You push your body so hard. It was much harder for me, I'll say, than boot camp. Honestly, I want to go up into Canada. I want to go up into the true wilderness. I don't want to go out and be able to drive somewhere. I want a bush plane, drop me off, and I want to go set in the wilderness and have camp on a moose hunt. That is probably my biggest dream as far as hunting goes. I want an elk, no doubt, but I think an elk is more realistic. I can drive out in Colorado. We can do that, and that's going to happen.
Nice.
But as far as that goes, but the challenge is then, what's the worst challenge? And that's the physical side of it for me now, because those miles and miles and miles you put on, and you got your pack that you got every piece of equipment you got to have for survival. And if you get the animal, then you got to pack it back, and how many miles back, and
that's nuts.
How much meat are you carrying?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Pretty cutting up a school bus if you get a moose and carrying it back on your back if that's what you're doing. So those are probably, to me, that's the biggest challenge is the physical side. But if you're hunting in a tree stand, the physical side is not that's not the physical side.
Sure.
And I do a lot of tree stand hunting in Indiana. So, but that's, to me, that's the biggest challenge now moving forward. But I feel like I'm thinking at a different level. Versus scent control versus accuracy versus keeping yourself calm and cool during that moment, because truly that's the biggest thing. The hardest thing for any hunter to learn is how to calm yourself down. If you remember, if you had to pick up your weapon and anything, you got adrenaline going, that gun is not going to stay where it's supposed to be. It's kind of doing this. And when you take somebody hunting for the first time, I'm pretty sure your heart comes out to here and you can see that.
I can imagine.
So those are to me, that's the biggest thing to be successful in hunting, is to learn how to control yourself. But physically now, for me, that's the biggest issue.
Sure. I imagine there's a lot of other lessons that are learned from doing something like that as well, kind of how you described it. Because I know, at least even in training, I mean, when people are just throwing things at, like I've been, throwing flashbangs at you, or you're just running around and you're literally in a training environment, and you're in a training environment, and that's crazy. So I imagine when you're in an actual hunt that it's absurd. Amongst other synonyms, it's absurd and crazy and heart pounding when you see something in front of your reticle. So that's good. So that was a great question. You guys can see those. I'll put out 24 hours in advance a sticker on Instagram stories where you can ask the guest a question. I think it's really fun to be able to incorporate other people into that, and it kind of like, it's like a fun question. It's really cool, and it's a lot of other things we can learn there as well. Before we get out of here, Evan, please tell us more about where we can contact you. That could be both you personally or also the Fallen Outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. My main source, I usually run through Instagram. Evan C. Smith is my Instagram. You can always email me, honestly, evan.c.smith2@gmail.com. And that's the easiest way to get hold of me if you need something through the Fallen Outdoors directly to me. But then we have the Fallen Outdoors. Check out that website. We've got if you're on Facebook, we also have, that's where most of the hunts and the stories actually go down. So the Facebook is probably the best way as well on that.
Easy day. You guys will be able to see all of that stuff in the show notes, whether you're on YouTube or you're checking it out on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere this podcast is coming through your ears. You'll be able to find that stuff. Find Evan, find the Fallen Outdoors. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your night.
Cool.
See you later.
As well.